Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us for our first event in our new Academy Talks Close-Up series, Creative Collaborations on Querencia, presented by Telefilm Canada. My name is Rhiannon Seith, and I'm the Assistant of Programming and Membership at the Canadian Academy. Before we begin, I'm currently located in Toronto. I would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the ancestral and traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We'd also like to recognize the extraordinary strength and struggle of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who have maintained their culture in the face of forces who have actively tried to erase it. The Canadian Academy acknowledges the role that the media establishment has played in those scenarios, and we are committed to forging a path forward that is both respectful and inclusive. As we are connecting virtually today from different places on the map, we encourage you to visit native-land.ca and learn more about the nations and traditional lands on which you reside and work. A few housekeeping notes. The bottom of your screen are two buttons. One is chat, the other is Q&A. If you wish to chat or make a comment during the panel, please use the chat function using the drop-down menu to post to both panelists and attendees so that everyone on today's call can see your comments. Use the Q&A function to ask any questions you have for today's speakers. We will save some time near the end of the conversation to answer them. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel. If you would like to learn anything more about today's speakers, we have included a link in the chat with their full bios. First, we have Justin Delorme. Justin is a Métis composer based in Winnipeg, Manitoba, on Treaty 1 territory. He is a Canadian Screen Award nominee and has scored over 100 episodes of television, 3 feature films, over 25 short films and documentaries, and many large-scale digital media projects reaching audiences worldwide. Next is Mary Galloway. Mary is the creator of Querencia, as well as an award-winning Cowichan filmmaker, actor, and fierce trailblazer, paving the way for Indigiqueer content creation. Mary bravely tells stories that represent marginalized communities in a heartfelt, entertaining, and enlightening manner. Up next, we have Maureen Grant. Maureen is a film and television editor. Recent work includes CBC's Tall Boys, the award-winning series Queens, and of course, Querencia. An alumnus of the Canadian Film Centre's Editors Lab and Berlin Talents, she is also a 5-time nominee of the Canadian Cinema Editors Awards. Next is Jason Pillay. Jason is a versatile fashion stylist and costume designer working in many genres from feature films and television series to music videos and editorials. Raised in Vancouver, BC, his work has taken him to LA, New York, London, and much more. With an incredible passion to be diverse in all areas of his profession, Jason excels at working relentlessly and living and breathing by the motto, be yourself. Last but not least, we have Jordan Popovich. Jordan is a filmmaker and cinematographer from Winnipeg, Manitoba. He started his production company, JP Media Works, Inc. in 2013, and has since then worked with a wide array of artists, filmmakers, and companies across Canada. He hopes to make an impact with his work and strives to create films with heart, humor, and purpose. So now I'll pass it off to our moderator for this session, Jesse Anthony. Jesse is the producer of Querencia and will be helping to steer our conversation today. Jesse is a proud Haudenosaunee woman from the Onondaga Nation Beaver Clan, born and raised on the 6 nations of the Grand River Territory in Ontario, Canada. Jessie is a Telefilm Talent to Watch winner for her first feature film titled Brother, I Cry, which won awards at the Vancouver International Film Festival, Imaginative Film Festival, Vancouver International Women's Film Festival, and the 2021 Leo Awards. Jessie is currently in development with a television slate supported by CMF, Amazon, ISO, Creative BC, and Bell Media. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here, and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. I'm super excited to be here. I just want to thank the Academy for, that feels really good to say. I just want to thank the Academy. I'm so happy to be able to moderate this panel and be back in somewhat of, I guess, the same Zoom room as everybody in this creative process of Querencia. So before we get started, I would love to show all of our wonderful audience members that have showed up here today to join us in this conversation, the trailer. So if we can jump right into the trailer, that would be amazing.
want you to come home.
We need to find you a nice girl. One that's not gonna break your heart like it's a fucking hobby a million times over.
You know what? I'm fine alone.
Are you, though?
You've already got a match.
It's a woman. This can't be happening.
Do you want to grab a drink?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 I've never kissed a girl before. Yeah, I kind of figured. What? Really? It was that obvious?
Do I look gay enough?
What does gay look like?
I don't know, but you look super gay.
Do you know anything about Abe's family?
That's probably best to leave it alone. Touchy subject, I guess.
I thought you said your mom's Cowichan.
Yeah, she is. I just don't talk to my family, really.
Who was she? I don't know if we should talk about this right now. I think I need to move back home.
Promise to love you till the world comes crumbling.
Yay!
Yay.
So good.
Ooh. I know, you know what? It never gets old. It's just one of those things. It's like finding new things every time. So,
Just hear that song at the end, just like, oh.
and the music, like everything about it, you know, is just well done, especially with the little budget that we had. So I guess I'm just gonna start off right away with kind of I guess to Mary and a little bit of background in the origins of, you know, the concept, where this idea came from, how long you had it, and what your next steps were to pursue getting it, you know, where it is.
Yeah, so at the time when this story, sort of this idea sparked and started, I was at a really low point in my life, and I had recently been like fired from a job. I had moved to a new city, and I didn't really have many people around me in my personal life. I got broken up with, I was heartbroken, and I was just sort of at an ultimate loss. And I was talking to my best friend Amanda on the phone, and she just framed it for me in a way that was like, this seems like a really like challenging, hard time, but what if you looked at it like a time to focus on just something for yourself and something that you can do that's creatively fulfilling, that you're not like relying on sort of anyone else, a job or anyone. You just take this time to yourself and write something that you feel passionate about. And I just sort of sat down and thought, what do I want to see? What do I think the world is missing right now? Um, and Querencia just came kind of flowing out of my fingertips at the computer. I just sat down and started writing, and I saw that Imaginative Film Festival was their deadline was closing soon for the pitch competition, which is the like live in person at Imaginative Film Festival, which is the world's largest Indigenous pitch competition. And you need to have a web series idea that you have an Indigenous like director and Indigenous producer. And I was like, I want to direct this, but I don't have a producer. And the deadline was coming up quick, so I just posted on my Instagram stories like, I'm looking for an Indigenous producer. Anyone like wanting to collaborate sometime? And Jesse saw it and messaged me. I was like, hi. And I was like, oh yeah, Jesse. Yes, absolutely. Let's talk. So then I sent Jesse the scripts, I believe it was, and we had a call and we chatted about it, and we submitted to Imaginative Film Festival, and we got chosen as one of the 4 teams to go pitch in person at Imaginative, and we won. And then it just sort of blossomed from there. We were originally going to make it 4 5-minute episodes, make it really short, concise, 20 minutes total. And then we saw Telefilm was doing their last year web series funding, and we're like, well, we have a web series. It's the last year. We better apply, right? And we're like, okay, but they say it's got to be like 80 minutes of content or up, like minimum 80. Was it, Jesse?
Yeah, 75 minutes.
In fact, I was like, well, I got so much more stories to tell of these girls. So, like, I literally scrapped those 4 episodes and started all over again and made 8-10 minute episode scripts. And then we applied to the Academy as the partner to apply for Telefilm Talent to Watch. And the Academy chose us to be their Indigenous project that they're submitting on that round of funding. And we got the funding, and here we are.
Yes, here we are. And you know what? I was quite proud of our whole team. I was proud of us that we were able to, say, okay, we've got the pitch money. We pitched in October that year before, and then we waited for Telefilm. And then I was so proud of us that we were able to shoot this whole thing and deliver it by May 17th. Like, I will never forget that end date of, that's a short turnaround, such a short turnaround, which is a huge thank you to our post team for sure on everything that we were asking for to deliver to our broadcasters. So I was just so proud of what we were able to do at the time. And that's also props to Mary, your determination and just to be organized and go and do this and be the post supervisor was really great to watch, to see you on top of those things and getting that done. So I guess I'm going to take it back to, there's all the pre-production that, we're gearing up for the casting process. And I guess submitting your story to the crew that you were building. And this can kind of go a question to the crew. What were your initial reactions to the scripts? I believe the 8 episodes that were sent. We can go around. I'll start with Maureen, because I know that you were on board even before we had scripts. So
yeah, lucky me. I met Mary before the script kind of came to life. We had worked together on her short film Spirit Glitch, and that was a kind of like a connection as well. We were connected through friends at the CFC, so I got a chance to get to know Mary, and then she was like, I have this queer web series. I was like, yes. Yeah, so reading the scripts from an early stage through to where it landed, I had a chance to kind of get to know the characters, the arcs she was building, and to give a little bit of just my emotional responses to it, just to, give some feedback and outside perspective. But yeah, I feel lucky to have been part of it so early.
Were you already thinking of ways to cut it as you were reading the story? How does your brain work?
That's a good question. I mean, it's a unique project. There's moments that are pure comedy. There are moments that are just absolutely gut-wrenchingly emotional. So it kind of is in this really cool hybrid territory. Definitely music focused. I think for me though, I wait to see where the director and the DP and the whole crew wants to take it to, and then I work with what material they've developed, So it's not a singular process by any means. It's creative collaboration.
Absolutely. I mean, with that's a nice segue into Jordan and that creative process, coming all the way to Vancouver from Winnipeg during a pandemic, with your gear and all, and coming to be a part of this project. What would you say, when you initially read the scripts and had those first conversations with Mary, your thoughts, your ideas, how did it feel to take on such a unique and big project? 80 minutes is a lot of content, right?
Yeah, well, my relationship with Mary kind of started 5 years ago. I think we did a other web series, Color of Scar Tissue. And after I read the script, she had sent it to me, I guess one of the first drafts, probably over a year ago. And yeah, I was in love with it. I'm a queer man myself, so any chance to tell these stories, I'm on board. And when she asked me to be a part of it, I was 100% down. It was overwhelming and daunting to think of being the DP for such a large crew. And it was my first opportunity kind of leading a small group of people in that way, but it was amazing. And the chance to come to Vancouver, it was my first time there. So all of it was like the best experience that I could have asked for. It was intimidating, but it was fun.
Awesome. And how did you guys talk about like the color palette? What kind of conversation, or how did you decide what that was going to be? I guess it's kind of a conversation or a question for the both of you in that process.
Yeah. We kind of talked about like a similar aesthetic that we both appreciate. She worked on 2 films that I really liked, Unintentional Mother and Spirit Glitch, which I was a fan of. And we also looked at like shows like HBO's Euphoria for in terms of color palette and aesthetic. And we kind of went for more of like an emotional realism, like color would kind of define certain characters' emotions in that moment. So that's kind of how we came to certain color choices and lighting choices and lens choices. So yeah.
We also had like we were both coming from Winnipeg, and we shared an Airbnb in Vancouver, so it was just like we're like in this zone together for like however many weeks it was, and we had like late night conversations talking through each scene, like the purpose of each scene, how we wanted to feel, look, and the emotional arc and where the characters are at. And like we stayed up and like made like spreadsheets and we're like just like in it like for morning, noon, and night. And it was a blast to do that and be able to like just immerse ourselves fully in the process and be creative together and like work things out. And then on the day, like as we're setting up shots and being like acting in it and directing it, they're like you have to have a lot of trust in your DP to be able to give you the thumbs up when there's no time to watch playback, and I didn't want to watch playback really almost ever, I don't think. And so yeah, we had really good conversations leading up to it about how we want it to feel and look. And you know.
That's actually a good, I'm going to ask you a question later on about playback, but I'm going to kind of just go over to Jason. And, when you came into the process of this, like, because I know even before we were going into hard prep or into soft prep, I know Mary and I were like, oh, we need somebody for styling. Jason, like it was like we knew the people that we wanted on the crew. Yeah. So the crew, I feel we had right away. We knew these department heads that we knew that we wanted. So when you came into that conversation to create like the creativity and the tones and the like, are you involved with the DP's conversation as well with the types of clothing, wardrobe? Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to ask here, other than what was your process? That's really what I'm trying to ask. What was your process?
My process initially, I think when Mary had reached out, I was, when you guys both reached out, I was like, yes, just without even thinking, because I worked with Mary. We've known each other for several years, and even working on Unintentional Mother, that was my first opportunity to costume design with Mary. And I know your work process and stuff. And when I heard about the script and the project and stuff, I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then when I read the script, it was super powerful. It was important. It was deep. It was emotional, and it was relatable as well. And I had a great time working with Mary. I think our conversations in my world, like I initially break down the script, I write down my characters, they're just character descriptions, and I develop them in my brain and like the color palettes and stuff. And I think Mary and I had several conversations regarding character development, what's the color story, what's their style, what's their aesthetic. And, Mary had created some mood boards, like character mood boards, when it was palettes, style, locations as well, which is important. And then I think her and Jordan's conversations, which she would relay to me regarding like, this is what we need to do, this is what we need and whatnot. So that was kind of like how we worked together. And yeah, it was super fun. I loved it.
That's good. I mean, it was really great to have you on. And I want to say too, one of the things that I think Mary and I really discussed too was mentorship and having people come on that are learning. And I'm pretty sure, some of the departments during production had that, and we were able to also, I know that was a big thing to have Jordan come on and take on this big project too, right? And creating that space was super I think it's part of giving back to the community. So I know that you did have somebody on your team that was also assisting you and coming in and learning as well, right? So
Yeah, it was her first time working on a production, so it was super fun for me as well, just to kind of teach someone, learn as well. You know, we learn from each other, and then just have that mentorship opportunity available on the series. And she had an amazing time.
Yeah. No, she was really great, and I think that's yeah, I hope to continue to do that as a producer too, like on the next project. The next project is where there's room for that. And it's not like, come shadow me. It's like, here, you're going to be put to work.
Exactly.
Your best way to learn is with hands on. Yeah. And with all of that, and, you know, Justin, I know we brought you on like super early, and then Mary's like, here's what I want to do. And had such a collective, or had such a great idea of bringing on these bringing on indie singer-songwriters, and like finding such gems like these. The music, like the playlist, the music is just beautiful. And then having you come on and compose and have that conversation with Mary. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I have to say, like, this was one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on because of how like, title of panel, but like the creative collaboration between us all is definitely was some of the strongest I've ever experienced, and it's, yeah, props to everyone involved. For the soundtrack, like all of the artists that were involved, like huge credit goes to Mary for compiling just the most ambitious list of like artists and of songs, and they all work so well. And like for me to be asked to, you know, fill in the blanks where only like some instrumental score and ambience can provide, that was just like really a dream scenario for any composer, but especially me, who I really enjoy that world of, you know, like, oh, we want to make people cry right now, is like, yes, like that's my favorite, that's my favorite place to be as a composer. So, and even for comedic moments, like what Maureen was saying, is there's just pure comedy stuff that I actually wasn't really expecting when I was reading the scripts. I got that similar to Maureen, where I react to what everyone has done up to that point. Like I'll read a script and I'll keep it in the back of my mind, but when I see all the colors and I see the performances and I see everything that's gone into it, that's when I can start really getting going. And yeah, some of those moments are just hilarious to me. I was you know, thinking about them just now, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of fun with like playing percussion and just synths and like sub bass and things like that I had no idea that I was going to be adding to this kind of score. So yeah, tons of fun, 10 on 10.
We also had like some fun kind of back and forth like things where Justin was literally to me like, if there's ever any like melody or something that just pops into your head at any point, just send me like a voice note, and I would send him like little random like la di da di da things. A little better than that, but you know what I mean.
I love this because now it brings me to so we all know that Abe, Mary's character, is a singer throughout this series, and you know, we have a wonderful song, a wonderful singer-songwriter. And then there was a shift where Mary sent me a clip of her singing, and I was like goosebumped, crying. Like it hit me so deeply. And I remember just messaging like a voice message being like, Mary, like this is what you got to do. I don't care what anybody says. And I know there was a little bit of like, I'm not sure. And I'm so happy that you went and like you sang as well, like it's like you're like a quadruple threat. And it's like wait, is that it was like a octagon threat. And yeah, I mean, what I guess I just want to dive into that a little more for you, and the experience of, you know, writing a character that is a rock star and then deciding to sing. Like, is this like a 3.0 or what's
Yes. Okay, so I referenced Dega as like, because I write everything based sort of loosely on real life events that have happened to me, and so I based Dega as like Mary 1.0, Abe is Mary 2.0, and so Jesse's like, is this Mary 3.0? Well, I honestly just I based the character Abe, who I played, loosely off of a few people I know, and one of them is an incredible singer-songwriter. Amanda, who I mentioned, was my friend who inspired me to write this. And she's a phenomenal singer, and I knew I wanted to have her expertise as a singer-songwriter involved in this series in some capacity. And so before we even went to Vancouver to shoot, Amanda and I just got so inspired talking about it one day on the phone. It turned into a songwriting session, and we thought it was going to be the theme song, and we thought this song we'll use for like the opening credits. And then on like the weekend before we started shooting and I had to do the scene where I'm singing a song, we realized, oh, like I thought it was gonna be silent, like kind of like slow-mo-y, like we're not gonna hear the song that is singing, but then we're like, no, wait, we need to know what song she's singing. And so I like messaged Amanda in a frantic like haze me like, I can we use this song? And like I was expecting it to be her voice on it, and then in post we were just feeling it out, and I was like, I kind of feel like I want to try and sing it. And I don't consider myself a singer at all, but I've been taking singing lessons and like piano lessons and all of that. So I want to give it a shot. And Justin was like, absolutely, I'm gonna drop off a mic and like everything you need. And we did like a remote like recording session because still pandemic, we can't go into each other's homes and do this. And Justin and I just like set up the gear, and like virtually Justin like guided me and helped me like get into the groove, and we just tried it out. And I was just so nervous, like writing, directing, acting, like none of that was as scary as singing. So it was a toss up, because I mean Amanda's voice is breathtaking, and I was like, how am I gonna be replacing Amanda's voice in this? Like that seems really silly. Like I feel like a missed opportunity to utilize an incredible talent. But then I also feel like I'm doing myself and my character injustice if I don't even give it a shot. And Amanda also gave me some like coaching tips and stuff like that, and we just tried it out, and I think it worked.
Definitely did. No,
That was
definitely.
one of my favorite moments in post, actually, was when we realized that instead of one verse and chorus and it transitioning to another song, that we would extend it. And so that was like our most collaborative moment in post. I remember it was like Justin came on and we were working on the cut and intercutting to the song, together, which was kind of
That's true.
unusual.
That. Yeah, while we were editing, Maureen and I and Justin and did also our sound, or what I can't, I'm blanking on the their name. Noah, who is our
Sound editor
designer.
and sound designer. Yeah.
Wasn't Noah on the call too? And we were
I
all
don't think
just
Noah was on that one. I think we were just trying to sort out and you were kind of at that, what if I write another verse? And then that becomes a soundtrack, because we had put in a song we could never afford. And then we were like, wait, no, their stories are going to intertwine over this song. And so it just became, I just remember us all being on the call and cutting together. And it was amazing.
I remember there was like a shot too that you're like, what do you think of this, Justin? I'm like, no one's ever asked me that before. Like I've never seen any like unlocked picture and never been asked about what I think of a shot. So it was really cool.
It's cool to have you just there and to say like, what do you think of this shot versus this one? And we decided, we were all like, oh, that shot gives me all of the feelings. Like that's the one, and we collectively decided. And it was just really nice to have that kind of extra emphasis.
Especially during like pandemic, right? Like it's been so interesting having to navigate a production, you know, in such scary times, and to want to kind of break the rules and hire the people that, you know, we wanted to hire, if that meant across the nation, which this story has been across the nation. And so how to get everybody in the room to do that, like, you know, Jason, going out and shopping during a pandemic, was anything closed? What, you know, what did you have a hard time? What could you find? What couldn't you? What did you bring? Like, what did you get the characters to bring? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, during production, like mall hours and shopping hours are all so reduced. And then I was like, I have to be on set, but I need to shop. So what do I do? So I'd come and do like a little bit of both. But yeah, it was definitely challenging. I definitely got some cast to bring things that, you know, they personally felt related to their character. I was like, just bring some options and we can take a look. And when we did the fitting at the Airbnb, you know, I would take pictures of everything, and, you know, I went shopping. I think some of the challenging things were like doubles and multiples on stuff, where like, you know, the coat's gonna drop in the water and I'm like, I can't get a second coat. You know, but we made it work and it was great. But yeah, there was definitely some challenges, especially with the pandemic, because shopping was hard, you know, doing returns and that kind of stuff in my world was definitely a bit challenging, but it was super great because everyone came together and collaborated, and, you know, it made my job easy.
And we followed protocol pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess too, going Jordan, I know that after everybody kind of went home, you stayed back a bit and picked up some really gorgeous you know, B-roll and of the city, and, you know, what was that like to be on your own, like after it was kind of everybody, it's kind of died down, and you're in the city with your camera and picking stuff up? Did you have an idea of what you were going to get, or were you just kind of running around grabbing stuff?
Yeah, I was kind of just running around. And I borrowed like a friend's tripod, and it was very like last minute, but it was just a nice chance to kind of experience the city a little bit more. Like I wasn't able to get, you know, probably as much B-roll as I would have liked, just because of like time, and everything was like shut down. Yeah. So that didn't help. But yeah, we were able to get to some rooftops and just different locations on the street. And like the city's just beautiful. So it wasn't hard to get, you know, nice shots of the city. The city just looks great from every which way. But yeah.
Well, and shout out to Dale, my friend Dale, who had like he had like a 360 rooftop that hit all of the city.
Super helpful. And it was yeah.
No. Sorry.
I'll chime in and just say that Jordan, you really did a wonderful job capturing Vancouver, and I feel like when you watch the show, it feels like Vancouver, and it's not like we're trying to cheat it for anywhere else. And like, there's just some really gorgeous B-roll stuff that like you just have such an eye for, and like I don't think you take enough credit. Like you really did a wonderful job capturing the essence of Vancouver, I feel like, on that stuff.
Which I was just gonna bring that up too, and is for those of you who are watching, you know, this story was initially supposed to be shot in Toronto, and had, you know, in near the story was initially supposed to be shot in Toronto, and then there was a great idea to shoot it in Winnipeg, and then Mary's like something about when we were gonna shoot it, and I was like, can we just shoot it in Vancouver? Because we wanted it to kind of be in the spring where it's not too cold. But by time we go to shoot, it's like Winnipeg in November. And I'm like, is that really what we want to do? Vancouver's so nice here. So it shifted all the way over to Vancouver. And I loved that it was like, well, then we play Vancouver for Vancouver, which, yeah, I think, Jordan, you did such an excellent job with capturing that essence. And then having, again, kind of talking about that cross the nation post with coloring and sound and editing and all of that, and getting it done in 6, like I'm just so blown away that even through Zoom and not being able to be in the same room and have these, you know, interactions and having to feel, we've gotten really good at feeling our emotions through Zoom. I want to know, and Jason, you as well, during the creative prep of this, was there a time that you may have bumped heads with Mary, and how did you get through that? Or were there things that you just had to like cut because you might have loved it and she didn't, and vice versa? How did you work through difficulties? Who wants
Who's
to go
going first? I nominate Jordan. Well, I think.
No, not even like so much bumping heads. Like, yeah, Mary definitely had a vision for what she wanted, and like there's some times where certain things were more difficult to make happen, and just because of like time restraints, it was just like, can we do it this way? And she's like, no, I want to do it this way. So it's just like, yeah, let's get it done. And like it was like all hands on deck to get it things, certain angles as quickly as possible, certain lighting setups as quickly as possible, and we all want it to look good, obviously. So yeah, it was just a collaboration. It was, you know, people want things done a certain way, and like we just need to figure out a way to make it happen. It was so it was, yeah, it was good. It was fine.
That's good.
I'll go. I think with me and Mary, like Mary was so like you gave me full creative control, you know. You would give me your pointers and tips. So, you know, I think Abe should wear this in this scene. I think Daka should wear this in this scene, or da 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 da. And we'd go back and forth a little bit, but like ultimately, like I had full creative control, which is super fun to do because like I got to really build characters. Yeah. So I don't think we ever bumped heads, but you would definitely give me pointers and stuff. Like, let's do it this way, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like, especially having worked together before, Jason, like we understand each other's brains, I feel like. And I feel like sometimes you would just look at me and I would like, we would give each other a look and we'd both just know that was
Yeah.
that's the one we want, or like
I'm like, hey, no. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like there's a few times where you'd be like, do you want this or this? And then I'd be like, you'd be like, this one, right? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely creative shorthand. I remember like a lot of our creative process together was like, I like this song, I like this track, I like this artist. And like we had this, both had, you know, huge queer playlists of music that we would love to have in the show. So that was fun. And just like a lot of, I don't know, back and forth about just queer storytelling and shows that we like, what we want to see on screen. I think that we just, you know, like we ask each other a lot of questions, or like what I try to do is ask questions about if there's something I don't understand or a moment that I'm not getting or it's not working. Maybe I'm just not coming at it from the right direction. So just asking Mary what it is and to get a better sense, you know, like I remember there was, the city's going to eat you alive was a couple of times. And I asked, do you want to have that twice or should we say it again? But then Mary clarified and said, no, actually, so many people said that to me. It really resonated for her. And it was like an intentional repetition. And so I think it just really is about like asking questions to draw out the meanings of the story, you know, when it's from another writer, you know, someone else's point of view. As collaborators, you've got to have a mind meld on all of those things.
And I would say there was some things too that Maureen would like try something out new and like maybe take out a line or take out like a moment or something, and she would play it for me and I'd be like, yeah, it looks great, but she wouldn't like give me a heads up, and then she'd be like, so I took out this, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice. Great, yeah, let's keep it out.
Yeah, it's like it's back and forth, things are in, they're out, and you just it's trial and error really. Always with a heads up. Yeah.
You would tell me after and be like, oh cool, yeah, didn't notice, so that's a good sign. You know, if it felt like there's something gaping missing, like that would be like a clue. But I think that, and then there was one other scene where we were like, do we need this? And it was at the end of their first date scene, and there was like a Dega moment, and we like gone back and forth like so many times on that, I feel like, and then we took it out for a while for a few cuts, and then at the very end we put it back in. It was like, yeah, it did need to go back in, but we wouldn't have known that unless we took it out and saw it without it for a while.
Yeah, and I think it's like there's never any definitive, you know, it's like just this kind of ever-changing entity, and that's the process, but it's always to have those conversations and never to be too sure about like, you know, what is or isn't, you know, in until you make that final call. And it takes a while to arrive at that, and it's hard over Zoom because you don't have the test audiences and you can't sit in a room with people, so you do have to kind of really trust your gut and get your close friends to look at it, and coming to that decision is a little harder over Zoom. But so I'm so happy with where it landed, and like after seeing it with the music and sound design and everything, it's amazing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, before we change the topic, I'll just give a shout out to Noah Valentine Meyer, the sound editor and sound designer, and so he was a big part of placing the music and helping select the music. And I can't take really any credit for any of the soundtrack in terms of choosing all these songs, but definitely it was like all Mary and all Noah, like placing all these songs over Zoom, just listening to the the classic Zoom audio effect, and like everything is in mono, and we're just kind of like, okay, I think this sounds really good. And when we we would sit down and just go through the list of songs, it really dawned on me that this is like by far the most ambitious just list that I've ever worked on anything, especially for a project that might not be like a massive budget or anything like that. So it was cool to see that. And yeah, so huge props to both of them for placing all those tracks.
Which kind of goes to me, because we're going to jump into some audience questions, but just to kind of tie up that last question, I wouldn't say necessarily bumping hits, but for me as a producer and knowing that list and hearing and seeing, my thing is not having to tell your director, no, the budget we can't. Like if you want this thing, we can't have this thing. And there were a few times where we had to really sacrifice certain things, but the music was the place where I was like, I really hope we don't have to sacrifice. Yeah, we reached out to some really big artists. Tegan and Sarah, if you're watching this, we'd love to have you for season 2.
Please, yeah.
Please. But yeah, there were a lot of things where it's like, I just, I hope that if we go into season 2, we have room to be able to really, because if the team can do this with this budget, I have no doubt what that's going to look like with an unlimited kind of budget. So yeah, I would say that would be where my, wishing that I could give everything to my director and make the world happen. And through a pandemic too was really hard. And I just have to say this, and I'll probably tease Mary about it all the time, is getting background for the party scenes. And on the day of, she's like, I need 15 BG for this scene and then 15 for and going, we're not even supposed to have 15 people on set. Like being like, but what? And then Jordan, you guys came up with such a great idea, and to be able to fill that with cast and crew and make it look like a full dance, like a full club. So I just say props to you guys on that. And yeah, that's the movie magic, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna jump into some questions here. So the first question here is from Catherine, and it is, how did you find the people to come on board to work under mentors? Did you go through a school program or question? I guess I can kind of start with that quickly. We had an opportunity, Pass-Through Productions had an opportunity to apply to the Indigenous Screen Office, which shouting them out really helped allow us to bring on a mentee, Tanis Red Crow, who worked as a emerging producer, and she really was a huge help within the process of pre and production. So we were able to mentor her under that I guess program. And then yeah, I'm not sure Jason, how did you come across?
Yeah, my assistant, I had reached out to a few fashion design schools and talked to their directors and their school board just to see if they had any students or graduates or anyone that was interested in the film industry and wanted to learn and stuff. And they sent me a bunch of people, and then I just kind of filtered through some resumes, reached out to people and checked their availability, and just met up with someone one face to face, and we kind of discussed like the project and the series, the script, and what the workload would be like. And yeah, and then I had her on board. It was great.
It was really cool.
I also did some posting like online as well, just on my social media, just to see if anyone's interested as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Maureen, you also had an assistant.
Yeah, I had an amazing assistant, Nassim, who I had met through a previous project, and Nassim wanted to have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about editing process, and because this was a low budget project, it was kind of an exchange, like like you can kind of get a more in-depth look at the project, like the project and the process, and assemble some scenes in exchange for your work, just so everyone's always like kind of moving their career forward. That's like the kind of thing that you can offer if there isn't money or
Yeah, and like the mentorship under you.
Yeah.
And Craig, shout out to Craig.
Shout out to Craig.
Mhm.
Yeah. He was also like an assistant editor who cut that trailer, and that was his first trailer he's ever cut, and you would never know it looking at it. It looks so pro and like done by someone who's cut trailers a million times over. But I feel like every single person we brought on as a part of the team, really doesn't matter if it was their first time on a set or their 100th time on a set. Like everyone was so passionate and showed up and brought their A game. And I think for Jesse and I, like one of our main goals was to crew up with like BIPOC and or LGBTQ creators, so that it was a authentic story being told by the community for the community. And we brought it on just such a all-star team. I feel like everyone just really rocked it, and you can like see the finished product just does not look like a very small budget, micro budget. Like it was this tiny budget.
Yeah, and creating that safe space, I think that too had been a conversation like right from the top. Mary and I taking on interviews, or just kind of having a Zoom conversation before hiring, to make sure that we had the best interest of the crew that was already on board as well, and that everybody was gonna be in this safe space. And I know that Mary had a lot of people come up to her as well and say that my producing team in my office, which is my home, very much the same thing, and yeah, we did have like, I just want to say also Sarah Kelly, like we had people in positions that had never done positions before. She did locations, and every location was happy to have us back. It was, yeah, I'm just so proud of everybody that come on board and did everything. And through connections, like I say this, Vancouver film community really showed up for this project. They gave us deals. They really kind of, it just felt like they were like, yeah, I don't know, a foundation. Like I don't know if we could have gotten the product that we got if they weren't so supportive. And yeah, I'm just really stoked, especially during a pandemic. And I bring it back to that. It blows me away. Oh, sorry, what happened? Am I still here?
Here.
Oh, it bumped me out for a second. Sorry. Especially during a pandemic. But I have another question here, guys, real quick. Lucy asked, how long does it take to complete one episode? So that is the question. Who wants to answer that?
That's a hard question to answer. I mean, it depends what they're asking. Like,
well, I think for production, we didn't shoot this episode by episode. We shot this like a feature film. And so what did we shoot? 15 days, 12 days, something like that. 12 to 15 days. Yeah, we shot.
13. It wasn't 15. Yeah. I would have loved
13 days. No, I think you're right. 13 days. Yeah.
Yeah, we shot in 13 days. Was that right? Can anyone?
Yeah,
somewhere
13 days is right. Yeah.
It was less than 3 weeks. Definitely more than 10. So yeah, 12 days. Yeah, we block shot it. So it was like all of Dega's house, day 1, day 2, like doesn't matter what episode. And then in post, Maureen, we also just kind of like did it like a feature sort of, didn't we? And it was
we worked in a linear order. Yeah, and I think we would take at least 2-3 weeks to get to sort of a fine cut of the episode, and then we just kept moving forward, and then we'd circle back with different music and different kind of perspective on the first ones we cut. So it's hard to say exactly, but I would, the whole thing took about 3 months for 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus then music and sound and finishing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a tight schedule.
Very tight.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? If you, now's the time to ask. I was also going to open it up to, do you guys have any questions for each other? Was there ever anything you were wondering when you watched the finished product? Is there, anything you are curious about?
I would love to hear, Jesse, you asked us all about when you came on board. I would love to hear about when you came on board and when you read the script.
Whew, okay. Yeah, so like Mary was talking about, I saw the call out, I saw the post, and it's interesting because I kind of look at, universe, everything happens for a reason kind of thing. And Mary has been in and out of my community, like in and out of like, what do you call that? Just in and out,
Like you're like what you like are
yeah in so like there was we actually were in a student film together where she got to kick my ass and yeah, and I was a cop, and I drove down, or I flew down to LA to drive her car up, like just random moments. And then all of a sudden there's this like post of, I need a producer. And I was just finishing up my feature film. And from doing my feature film, I saw the need for Indigenous production companies to exist, because at the time in just like 2018, there wasn't really an indie Indigenous production company that was working on other people's projects. They were working kind of just on their own projects. And so I was going, you know what, this is a need, and I would like to go into this and see what I can help with, what I can offer, how I can give back to the community. But I didn't actually know exactly what it was until we had a conversation. And my soul really just cried in terms of the content and what it was speaking to, and the story, and a different type of reclaiming self-identity, just all this stuff, and self-love. And I was just blown away by just the conversation around concept. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there was a script quite yet. You went away and wrote a couple, and then I read through those. I think it was 4, because we were getting ready for the pitch. And then going to Toronto and working, like we did not waste time. We worked our butts off in the hotel room. And to me, that was like, okay, like, this is good. This is really great. And I don't know, it just flourished. And the more we got, I really did like the comedy too, the aspect of like, it wasn't like in your face, but it's so real life. It was very realistic in terms of, this is how we might deal with this certain type of situation, or when things are awkward, so yeah, I was, and I think I might have told you this, Mary. Unfortunately, I had come home one time to my cousin's house, and he was a victim of gay bashing, and it was really hard for me to go into the house and see what I saw. And he was at the hospital at the time, but it really shook me in terms of like, why would somebody want to do this to somebody? So that was a space of like, can I be an ally? Can I come on? Can I find myself through this story? And I think that's what it offered me. It was a place to be very vocal about where I am in my own sexuality, where, what kind of space I want to create. So there was all kinds of different elements that attached me to wanting to produce this content and make room and help put that representation on screen. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is being able to learn new things, and just really be helpful in whatever way that I can. So, and it's just so, those are 5-minute warning. Okay. So if that's my long-winded answer of the emotional connection to what I see it doing for the future, like the trail that it is blazing, the conversations that it's creating, and the artists that felt safe on our set. Like, that was a big thing for me, the safety part of,
Mm.
being able to do what you love without having to worry about people's judgments and you know, the things that they're not okay with. And I just, yeah, I could go on and on about that. And to be APTN's like first original, and it to be Indigenous queer was just like female, you know, like it was so many firsts that why would I, it's a no-brainer. Why would I not want to help put this project on the screen? So yeah.
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 Wow.
And I hope to continue to, you know, do that and bring everybody back and keep working together and creating change in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to me to create that safe space within the community and within set, and for the actors and for the LGBTQ and BIPOC community to have a show that represents them in a way that, you know, there's so many archetypes of Indigenous people, of women, of queer people, and I just really wanted to tell a story that is people that happen to be queer, happen to be BIPOC, living everyday life, and like it's not like those are huge parts of the story, but it's also just people falling in love, and they just happen to be queer. They happen to be queer and BIPOC, and yeah, it just was really, yeah.
I was gonna say which you pitched. I was just gonna say, when we pitched this, I think one of my favorite lines was that in most cases, queer people die on screen. Like something tragic happens, and there was no tragedy in this. This was hopeful. It was it's feel good. I don't want to spoil it for everybody if they haven't seen it yet, but you know, it was a different conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I did have a, okay. Well, you know, like I told them in the beginning, an hour is not enough time to kind of talk about the process and the creativity, but it has definitely been a pleasure to jump back into conversation with you guys. And I just have to say that this process was also a huge learning process for me as a producer, and knowing, you know, where my strengths and weaknesses are too. And I just want to thank you, Mary, for trusting in me as an emerging producer, and bringing me on board as well. So and thank you to the whole team for, you know, us working for next to nothing. I appreciate it. Yeah. And delivering us your best. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so proud of it. Thanks for having me on board. Sure.
Thank you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Chika. Thank you all so much for coming today, and for my team. You all just brought this thing to life in a way I couldn't have ever imagined, just to the level that it deserves with these stories. And yeah, I really loved getting to see you all in one space again. And thank you to the Academy, that does focus, for having us here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys. Just talking back to say thank you. A huge thank you to Justin, Mary, Maureen, Jason, Jordan, and Jesse for today's conversation. Congrats on the series. It's so great. And it was great to hear more about it and what it was like for you guys to work together. And another thank you to our partners at Telefilm Canada for presenting this session. If you're posting about this event on social media, don't forget to tag us in your posts. We can be found at the CDN Academy, and Telefilm can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Telefilm_Canada. Thank you again, and we hope to see you all soon.